in my case, I didn't know what I wanted to do at 20. I didn't know what I wanted to do at 30. I'm nearly 40 and I'm like, I love what I do, but I know it's not the end. So I know I'll be doing different things. And I love that thought of like what's to come, like the idea of what if and what could be.
What if one of the things written on your school report every year eventually became one of your greatest strengths? In this episode of More Than a Score, we sit with Sarah Pound, better known to many as Wholesome by Sarah, nutritionist, author, educator, entrepreneur, mum of 3, and someone who has built a career by backing herself, embracing change, and refusing to stay in one lane. At school, Sarah was often told she talked too much. She loved people, connection, and having fun with her friends far more than sitting quietly and memorising information. Yet, those same qualities that didn't always fit neatly into a classroom would later help her build a thriving community and a career that has evolved in ways she never could have predicted.
In this episode, we talk about confidence, proving people wrong, career pivots, trusting yourself, and why success is often found by taking paths that don't look that conventional. So if you're a parent, educator, or young person, or just someone trying to work out where your strengths fit, this conversation is packed with perspective, encouragement, and most importantly, hope. We don't mean the wishful thinking, passive kind, but the actual active type that makes a big impact. So, welcome to this episode of More Than a Score.
Sarah Pound, what's your middle name?
Oh,
You don't have to share it. It's okay.
Marlene.
I've got a double banger.
Marlene. Yeah.
That is a generational name.
Yes. So my 2 grandmothers
I was
were
gonna say, it's gotta
Aileen
be-
and Maureen.
Oh,
So Mum
sounds like
decided
it should be on Neighbours.
Yeah, totally. Mum decided on Marlene and then had 3 more daughters. So I could have just actually been named one of my grandma's names.
Right.
And they've all got really normal Victoria, Rose and Catherine, and I'm Marlene.
Oh, classic
Yeah.
traditional one.
Now, did I get it? I said to Dan, you give me oldest daughter energy.
Yeah. I am eldest
Called
daughter.
it.
I was like, she
Everyone's
gives
got
me
this.
the energy. I'm the oldest daughter too.
Oh, there you go.
I'm a
There's a
double banger.
feeling.
It's
There's a
Daniel.
feeling.
It's
Yeah.
fun.
John Hamlet Francis.
Daniel John Hamlet Steele. So, and all the firstborn boys were previously called Hamlet
Yeah.
for generations. And then my dad was born and his mum refused to do it.
Yes.
So he got called Jeff
Okay.
instead of Hamlet, which good on
I
you,
think I
Jeff.
prefer him more than Hamlet.
I think a Hamlet over Jeff. I reckon he might
Really?
choose a
Do you know
Hamlet
what?
over Jeff.
Do you know what I would
reckon.
say? Like, who looks at a baby and thinks Jeff? It's like Craig.
Oh, that's
Do you
true.
know what I
That's
mean?
true.
A
But I
baby.
feel like who looks at a baby and thinks Hamlet?
Sarah Pound, lovely to have you here
So
on
great to be
More
here.
Than a Score. I'm very lucky. I get to do the introduction for each guest.
Oh.
So I've done a little bit of digging around,
Yep.
a little bit of speaking to some people. So here we go. Strap. Laura's giving me a look like strap yourself in. All right, we're okay, Laura. It's okay. Dietitian and nutritionist, turned teacher, turned Instagram reeler, turned published author, dynamic, resilient, genuine, and, from people I've spoken to, lighter of rooms. A pivoter.
That's so
And
nice.
career redefiner who's faced successes, failures, and others incredulous at your choices. A passionate foodie, risk taker who backs themselves and has created a wholesome and rewarding path by straying off the typical one. And a mum of 3, Sarah Pound. Lovely to have you
That's so
on More Than a
nice. I
Score.
loved that.
Thank you. There's pressure, right? Once I say, I get the privilege, suddenly people feel like they need to say
No,
something.
it's
So
really, he does a good job of
You
that.
do a really good job of that.
Yeah. I
Yes.
feel like now every episode it sounds like I'm fishing for compliment. Anyway,
No,
let's turn this
I
back
really
to
like
you.
that because I feel like a lot of the intros, not to sound like a dick, but a lot of the intros that are said about me are just, kind of accolades, like the things that you've done, whereas that was a bit more like, lighter of room, I've never heard that. That's so special.
Yeah,
I
it is
love that.
special.
I'm like, who said that?
Well, I was talking to people down at some netball training, and I heard
Down
that.
the main street,
I
yes.
grabbed that. Absolutely, we don't care about accolades, isn't that right?
Yeah.
Is that what we're saying?
Definitely.
So, Sarah, when you think back to the end of your time at school,
Yep.
were you happy with your score?
I actually really was happy with my score, which I don't know if I've ever told them this, but I beat my 4 siblings. I didn't know about my 3 younger sisters until it happened, but I just really loved that. Even though we're like super close and not that competitive, I just loved that.
Well, from your perspective, you're not competitive. Is that right?
maybe
Yeah,
not.
sorry.
In some things.
Sorry.
But to be really honest, I was a couple of points off, off 90. So I remember being annoyed about that. But then overall, I was super happy because, I don't know, I kind of put my head down and my bum up, what's it saying? Yes, in year 12 and worked hard for not doing much before that. As in like year 9, year 10, year 11, I didn't do very much.
Yep.
I preferred to have fun at school rather than study and learn things and, So I think I was also with my husband at the time, as in like my husband now was my boyfriend at the time, and he was like a very studious student. So he was very great at like, oh, let's study together this week. And I was like, what? Like, it's the weekend. I'm going to have fun with my mates. And he'd be like, no. And our parents still talk about how it's funny. They used to come in the room, our bedrooms, and we'd be like at the table studying together. So I'm like, I feel like that all just worked into it, that it resulted in, a score that much higher than I needed to get into what I wanted to get into at the time.
Do you still now study together on weekends?
No.
Okay. All right.
No, we do our goal setting together, which we actually are behind in. We keep saying for the last 6 months we have to do our goal setting, and we're like, oh, it just might not happen for 2026. But other than that, no, we have separate desks. Separate offices. I was like, that was one of my prerequisites when we moved house. I was like, he was like, but we can just share an office. I'm like, no. I think we need to.
Those
we spend a
weekends
lot of
start
time.
me.
Yes.
I hear what you're saying.
Yes.
Has it still stayed the same? Is he still more studious or now? Okay.
Definitely.
That was a quick yes.
Yeah. He's just like, without really pumping up his tires, he's like, you give him a list of shit to do and he will just get it done in like lightning time and do it really well. It's whereas I will get distracted, I'll procrastinate, I'll go off for a while. I think I need a walk.
Yeah.
I'll do stuff like that. And he just like sits at the desk and he's like, oh, I did all those things he sent me. I'm like, already? It actually blows my mind, the focus.
One of the things I took from your pre-pod form was you said, I never worried about schoolwork and being a great student too much. So the thing I wondered is, so what were you focused on? You said sort of going out and hanging out, but...
I think my friends and having fun and talking. Like it's just, I think at the time I was very fortunate to go to a really good school in the inner city, private girls' school. And so much emphasis was placed on like you don't waste a second. Parents are paying a lot of money for this. It was so academic based. But it just never bothered me. And now that I look back, I'm like, I reflect on that quite a lot. I wasn't wasting my parents' money by not sitting in a class and, doing the stuff I was meant to do. I just wasn't built that way. I learnt stuff through other ways, which 20 years ago they didn't know about. So it was very much rote learning or the whiteboard. Everyone up here, then you go away, you do the boring questions. Like it was just such a different way of education back then. That I think now if I went, and I'm not like slagging on my school at all, it was a brilliant school, but now if I went to that school, it would be totally different. Yeah. The way that you learned, the way that they appreciated that creative brains work differently, visual, all of that sort of stuff. So I think I just loved being with my mates, which I still am very close with a big group of 10 to 12 of them. And I just loved chatting, which teachers always wrote on every report card at the end of every semester. She has huge potential, but she talks too much. And now I look back at that, I'm like, that actually wasn't a bad thing. Like that was actually just part of my personality and it still is. I preferred more building on human connection rather than rote learning a fucking history book that I will never have to use again in my life.
Yeah.
So the reports you get are loves to chat, and now part of your work that you're doing is literally chatting.
Totally.
Being on radio, getting to do all that sort of work.
Talking to a camera all the time, like through my recipes. I could talk to a brick wall, and it's just the way that I'm built. So it's amazing that 20 years ago it's like, oh, and I get it because I was distracting a classroom. I often think about those poor kids that were like, shut the hell up. But it's like it's not necessarily a bad thing if your child's talking too much at school. I would actually argue it's quite a good thing. The opposite of that is a child not opening up at all, and then you wonder where that goes as they grow,
I'm interested though, you said that you weren't that focused on academics, yet you pushed to do a year 12 subject in year 11. You were told you wouldn't be able to manage it. Why did you push to do that considering academia wasn't your focus at that point?
In the beginning, I think I chose to do it because it was like, you should. There was a lot of like, oh, you should do a 3-4 in year 11. because it helps you prepare for year 12. So I was like, okay. And then in the end, it was literally to prove my vice principal wrong. Like when she said, you're not going to manage it, you'll put all your eggs in one. I remember her saying, you'll put all your eggs in one basket and you'll fail the rest of your year 11 subjects. I don't know how many went to do a 3-4, but there was a group of girls, probably 10, that she said that to, and everyone else didn't do one. And I walked out of that room and I was like, fuck that. I will absolutely be doing the 3-4 and I will show you. So I feel like a lot of that, which I still have that a lot in my personality. With Bash, often I'm like, I just want to prove them wrong. And he's like, why? And I'm like, because they said I couldn't, or because it's just that.
Was that the first instance for you of that occurring?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yes.
And high stakes, right? Like somebody who has authority, you're used to sort of not being pushed back against.
Yes.
Why did you decide that that was the time?
Yeah.
You're like, nah.
Yeah. That stuff never scared me. I don't think I thought about the consequence of if I did fail and I failed everything. I think Mum and Dad were really good like that, even though they were sacrificing a heap for us to go to private schools because both of them came from very, very humble beginnings. They never put pressure on us to do well. They always were like, get in there, give it a crack. You have to work. Like you can't slack off and do nothing. But I think that was a nice safety net to know that even if I do fail the legal studies as a 3-4, Mum and Dad aren't going to kill me. So it's okay.
You also said too your dad was a huge champion, but you said, and I found your word really interesting, you said that he told you could manage everything. It wasn't that you could do everything, you could be anything. You said manage, and I'm wondering why you used that word.
Dad was just really awesome, especially as I get older and now think about how to parent my 3 daughters and, you know, the language you should be using and what you should be saying. He was just always very encouraging. I don't know, I've actually never thought of why I use the word manage, but that's actually probably important because that's what's, I think, quite hard as well with giving advice to young females is you have to be prepared to manage a lot if you are going to step out and do your own thing and possibly have children and a family and friends and the family that you grew up from, all of that, it takes a lot of, managing. So Dad was just always very, which I still find quite amazing for that time, like 30 years ago, 40 years ago. He was the main breadwinner in our family. Mum didn't work. She was at home with 5 children, which is a big job in itself. But that was what was nice. I was always surrounded by language that was encouraging of females that you could just do exactly what my brother, like I got the same advice that my older brother always got.
Yes.
It wasn't like, oh, because you're a female, you can't do that, or James would be better at that or anything like that. He always talked very inclusively about we could all do whatever if we were prepared to work and, put our minds to it sort of thing.
Well, it seems like quite realistic language.
Yes. Yeah, because he also had small businesses of his own and was always going through the trenches in different ways. He had a legal matter that went on for years, and he would sort of, not to the extent that he was putting stress on us at all, but he would talk about that quite openly and, this stuff just happens, but you know what? You just got to keep a strong mind, work through it. It won't be the end of the world. He was sort of quite realistic like that and was always had this wonderful mentality of like, it will be okay. Like it is really shit right now, but, you'll get to the other side of whatever that thing is and you'll be okay.
I think that's a real privilege to actually see somebody work through something in real time.
Yeah.
And to feel as though you're not a sounding board necessarily, but that there's no shame around it, that this is something we all go through. I think we get these examples of the perfect story, and I think parents in a lot of ways shield us from the difficulties.
Yeah.
And, you don't want to parentify your child, but I think it is a really lovely thing that he was having these conversations around, well, this is how I'm actually managing this in real time. What a lovely thing to do for a kid.
And to kind of see it, as I said, he didn't give every detail and put a whole lot of but to talk about it as it was happening, but then to use that positive language of like, it's okay, like I'm going through a really shit time at the moment, but I'm absolutely okay and everything will be okay.
Yeah.
And then being able to still be the fun, he was the like funny dad that every night saying goodnight, he'd put on the hats and the costumes and like be a total idiot, but he'd had a terrible day in court or whatever, but then was able to switch it and be like happy, fun, dad kind of thing, which was good to see because you kind of were like, yeah, even as a kid, you don't really know what they're going through, but looking back, you're like, yeah. And when we've had certain things, like my husband and I have had certain things with our own businesses that have been really hard, and we've had a legal battle for something like a trademark issue over the last now nearly fucking year and a half. You have that in the back of your mind of like, it's okay. Lots of people go through this stuff. It's really normal. And you kind of just have to be like, I think I'm like him in the sense that I'm like, it's shit and we're spending so much money on lawyers and all of that sort of stuff, which is just so frustrating, but it is not the end of the world. Like, yeah, so it's kind of nice to have had those experiences because it does help when you are going through them, you know, now in my life.
I'm going to say one more thing before I let you go because I'm just chatting. But
No, this is
I've
great.
I've written
I
down
love it.
here because you sent us a voice note on top of two voice notes on top
love
of the,
voice notes.
They were
the
very
pod.
brief voice notes.
Oh, good. Were they not? They're like,
I think one was 7 minutes.
7 minutes and a half. It was great.
I love a
I'm
good
trying to
voice
get
note.
better at
No,
my
Sarah,
generation of a voice
do it.
note.
I loved it. It was
What I
so
wrote
good.
down about this.
As I said, love to talk.
Me too. Oh.
What I loved about it is though you talked about, and we will get to your pathway. On paper, you categorically have experienced failure in terms of business, right? But you said, I've never really struggled with my mental health. I'm lucky that way. And I just think that what you've just expressed in terms of what you've learned through challenge and how you've seen somebody experience challenge, surely that's part of your now inner dialogue.
Yes. yeah.
Surely, because I don't think there's luck in mental health. Do you know what I mean? I think there's ways we speak to ourselves.
Yeah, actually, no, I agree with that. I think I have always loved how even as a kid I remember just loving myself, but not in a dickhead way, like not like I'm so good, I love myself, just like having this like inner self-belief, just kind of sitting there being like, oh, it's fine. Like it's fine if I fuck up. It's fine if I don't make that team. Like it never bothered me. And I remember loving that, just being in that feeling because it was so calm all the time. It wasn't like, I'm really worried what they're going to think of me. Like, and that's just been me always. And now I look at my 3 girls and I'm like, most days I'm like, they're not old enough yet, but it's sort of like I'm trying to work out if they've got that trait because I think it's one of the best traits you can have. And I think that's what's carried me through so much. Like I don't see failures. Well, I think that word needs to be, we need to create a new word for failure.
Yes.
But it's, you know, I talk to my girls about failures being a wonderful thing because you learn so much. They can create opportunities. You can pivot from I think you have to fail in lots of ways to be able to then rebuild and create something great. And again, I think that was the dialogue back when we went to school that failures were a bad thing, like the red
100%.
pen, all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
It's like you don't want to be in that category, but I think now failures are so great in sort of helping you realise what you should and shouldn't be doing, but also then kind of redirecting your path to what it's probably meant to be.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think I'm lucky in that I just always had a mentality of when something went wrong or I failed at something, I didn't go straight to sort of, you know, degrading myself or like, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't get that. Oh, how terrible. Like all the pressure and the expectation, all of that sort of stuff, it didn't happen to me. I'd sort of go, well, it's not the end of the world. Like I'll just try something else or.
Of course, correct.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, sorry, I forget the exact question.
You've
I'm like,
completely
no,
answered it. You've completely answered it.
That's
You've
great.
completely
You're
answered
talking
it.
it through.
Yes.
There's a based on all that you're saying, I was thinking and listening while you were talking through that. So for the person that's listening, the experience of that you had at school, you're highly optimistic. There's a real sense of hope, as in, you know, and also active hope, not just this passive thing of things will get done. It's, well, no, I can put in place what I need to. And that you really value this idea of like sharing and getting connection. Like your dad seemed to model all of that too. You had this around you. Are you familiar with the idea that they've got around with parenting? They talk about sometimes we get our kids that are either dandelions or orchids.
Oh, no.
Have you heard about this? So it's like dandelions can be really hardy and can just grow anywhere from this concept of, you know, the flowers they can sustain through all tough times. And then orchids can be really affected by the environment. They're quite sensitive.
Yeah.
They need quite some
I love
nurturing, a lot of nurturing, a lot of support. As a dad of 3 kids, I very much have some dandelions and also an orchid.
Can they be like a combination in
I'm
certain
sure, right?
situations?
So
I'm like,
you're not static anyway, but listening to you, there's that idea of like dandelion But I remember when we were doing our teaching degree, we also got to discover this other thing, which is called being anti-fragile. So if you think of a fragile box, the more you kick it, the weaker it gets.
Yes.
People say the opposite of fragile is, like you're strong.
Yeah.
But the actual opposite is the more hits you cop, the stronger you actually become.
Yes.
And listening to you, you're like this dandelion, but your dad was really great at supporting you and modelling all these different things. And you seem to just be anti-fragile. You're like, well, I realise failure is good, mistakes are good. And you've taken that and you've had this really positive experience at school because listening to you, like you mucked around, you spent time just with your friend, and then you're like, right, I should probably knuckle down.
Yeah.
And then you did well enough, but you also knew that that was just one point and you're ready to move on and keep going on. So the thing I was interested in, though, is given all that, you also had this group of friends who were there supporting you.
Yeah.
I'm interested to know, you spoke about multiple times in your pre-pod, a group of 10 friends. What key story would they tell about you that sums up your experience at school?
I think they have a sort of joke of LA lady because I loved acting. And so I'd just always be an idiot, as in like the kind of the lunatic in the room.
Not now.
Not now at all. I'm so responsible. They would just be like, fun-loving, like LA lady. I always loved dressing up and putting on high heels and being a bit of a drama, that sort of thing. And they would also probably mention how at school every time I would bring, which relates to cooking, but I'd bring in toasting machines, I'd bring in chopping boards and knives, and this was at secondary school at Loretto. I would cook in the science labs before school started, and so many times the teacher was like, you cannot have stuff in here, Sarah Pound, get out. And then the next morning I'd just do it again, and I'd have these knives that were like massive chef's knives. And anyway, so they just say I was a bit of a clown, really.
Were you cooking just for yourself, or were there? I'm picturing a queue forming out the door.
Yeah, I would cook. I had a good friend, Jackie, who often would come to school. She'd sleep in her uniform. She was just hysterical, and she'd just come all dishevelled and hadn't eaten breakfast. She'd often get a lot of what I was cooking, but no, generally I just loved. That was where the cooking came in. I'd be like, oh, I didn't have time for breakfast this morning. I'll bring in my toasty machine and make a lovely toasty on the really hygienic science lab benches. Yes, they would just be like that. I think they'd just say I was, fun, silly, loves a laugh, that kind of thing.
Yeah. The founder of Loretto's Breakfast Club. That's what it sounds like you were. So there's a real pull, and it's such a lovely way. You've set us up brilliantly for a shift to the pathway, but there's this real pull and this real spark around food and cooking for you. Is it okay if I shift and do it and talk us through the pathway? Is it all right?
Go for it.
So, and please jump in if I miss anything and get something wrong. Okay. So you move through, when you finish up school, it sounds like this really positive experience, but you're ready to move on.
Yes.
Complete a Bachelor of Nutrition and Dietetics. And then throughout that time, what I really loved hearing from your voice note, which was a very, very succinct voice note around the fact that you said a key point throughout it, you actually chose to do less subjects so that you could continue to work.
Yeah.
And you really value being able to bring in your own sort of income and being able to take responsibility for yourself. So you're working alongside study. You completed that degree. You then tried for your Masters of Dietetics, but you actually missed out.
Yeah.
And at the time, they only took about 6 people at the time. So then you pivot. You go, all right, what do I need to do? You then shifted, got into a Masters of Teaching, and then moved in to teach for a few years in a primary setting. And then you described it, you said the food train was calling me. So you spent all this time, eventually started and formed a catering company that you ran for 8 years. COVID hit, in case people don't know what COVID is, or the pandemic that occurred, right?
Totally.
So the word I chose here is it destroyed the business.
Yeah.
And you spoke about just how tough it was. And
pretty much destroyed me at the same time.
Exactly. And even that's just a few words. There must be so many stories in that. I'm not asking for you to share them, but just how tough it would have been.
Yeah.
But then Reels had just become a thing.
Yeah.
So you again pivoted, learned from this failure, mistake, success, things that were out of your hands, and you started videos on this Instagram account called Wholesome by Sarah. You now write for Good Food. You're a co-host with the radio show. You're publishing these 3 books, cookbooks that are happening, 2 out, 1 currently about to come out. So I want to go back to that quote. The food train was calling me. This food dream just isn't going away. Talk us through that moment when you finally decided to shift away from teaching into What's led you to all this success and this path now?
Yeah, I think I was in my second year of teaching, and you guys would know it. Like once you get into the term, you're so busy and the weeks just fly by. So I knew and through all my study, I'd always worked as sort of like cafes and with chefs and that kind of thing. So I loved doing all of that. And so the term would just fly by. All of a sudden you get to week 9 or week 10 and it was holidays. And I will also argue that, yes, teachers don't get the 2 weeks of full fucking holidays every time, or the 6 weeks that come at the end of the year. Most of the time you're doing shit over those holidays. But I think it was a time where you kind of got to slow down a little bit because you had stepped out of the classroom, and each holidays that would come around, I'd be like, I just really want to start this food thing. I don't really even know what it is. Like it started out as take-home meals as opposed to like a full catering company. But that was the time that it would come up. And I'd sort of say, oh, says you can't. Like you've just done a master's of teaching. You've just got a great teaching job. Like you should stick at this. But I was like, I know what I'm like, and if I don't try it now and give it a crack, I will always wonder. And I think I knew, not that I was that was sort of like mid-20s, and I didn't have Lil till I was just 30. So it's not like kids were around the corner, but I also knew like now is the time. And I'm not saying you can't start businesses after having children, no way. But I sort of knew, I was like, I've got lots of energy now. I just want to do it now. And that's also part of my personality of like sometimes I've learned to become more patient as I've got older, but when I have an idea and I really want to do it, I just want to do it. And so I asked Mum and was like, do you want to help me set up a take-home meals business? It can start from, so registered my tiny apartment in Paran and literally just started with text messaging people being like, I'm starting to cook some meals. So Mum and I delivered them all, started out there for the first year. And I remember telling like my fellow colleague, he was a 5-6 teacher as well, and he was old. He was more like my dad's age, maybe a bit younger, sorry. But I remember I told him like I'm going to leave to start this food thing. And he was like, what? I just think you're a bit crazy. I think teaching jobs are really hard to get at the moment, and this is a really good teaching job, and I would urge you to reconsider. And I was sort of like, oh, but in my mind I was like, I've made up my mind, like I'm going. But I did the polite thing of course, no, I understand. I was like,
Thanks for thinking of me.
Thanks for thinking of me. But I look back at that advice and I'm like, I don't know. I feel like that was so wrong. Like even though it wasn't, because it was coming from a good place. But then I'm like, you don't know me then. You don't know what I'm like, and you don't know that I have to give this a crack. And he was like, starting your own business is really hard. I'm like, yeah, I don't really know that yet, but I'm happy to like give it everything I've got. I'd rather do that and fail and know that, so.
Had they started their own business?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, exactly. I kind of evaluated when I got home and I was like, fuck that, I'm doing it.
I'm seeing a link between that and the vice principal telling you not to do
I thought the same thing.
Yes,
yeah.
I don't like to, which Bash will say, number one, I don't like to be told I can't do it, because that will just then 100% make me want to do it. And so then, went away, left the teaching, and I worked as an emergency teacher alongside setting up the business. So I was sort of doing about 3 days of teaching a week, and was really lucky because a very good friend of ours, a family friend, runs an emergency teaching agency in the city. So that just worked out so well because she was quite flexible with me and the days that I needed to cook, to make the meals, to drive them around each week, all of that sort of stuff. So did that for a good year, and then, got our first lease space in Malvern about a year into it, and that's kind of when we moved out of the Paran apartment and set up all there, and then it kind of just grew from there.
Can I ask, you said I was texting people. Who were you texting?
Just family and friends to start with.
That's how it started?
Yeah. Set up an Instagram account, but that was, 10 years ago. And, then just started through that, and then we did like a very basic online ordering system that came after maybe a couple of months. And then, it sort of really started to move once we got our first lease space, because that's when we kind of were still doing the take-home meals and delivering each week, but then started to lock in catering jobs, like small like private parties, stuff like that on the weekends once we got that space. And it was a bit more, it wasn't like by any means a great kitchen, but at least it was like more than my 30-centimetre domestic oven in my Paran apartment. They can only cook so much.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you said earlier that each year you do some goal setting. So you and your husband make sure Was this something that you were doing at that time too? Was there some clear
Yes.
goals or something that you were picturing you were working towards?
I think, do you know what's sad? We've done it maybe once in the last 5 years, but COVID destroyed goal setting for me. It was kind of like I did it pretty religiously each year because loved like having these hopes and these dreams and these kind of goals and being like, yep, I can attack that, and like made a real point and effort to do it. And then because COVID went on for 2 years, I basically couldn't plan or do anything. So I think that kind of stopped. It was, that was sort of, when I look back, I'm like, I haven't really properly goal set since then.
What do you do instead? Are you aware of a direction you're heading, or is it
As in the goal setting?
Yeah, just instead.
It's like it's not only business and career, it's like friends, family, fun. So it's like we use this wheel of life, and it's like got all these sections of, you know, spiritual, like all different parts of your life, and you sort of fill out where it is out of 10 and what you want it to look like, where you want to be, how you're going to make that happen. And then you kind of put it all into goals of like that's what you want to achieve in a 6-month period. Or then you can also do the 5-year of like what you look to have in 5 or what you want in 5 years.
I'm really interested to go back slightly where, you know, if someone was looking at your Instagram now and everything that they're hearing from you recently, it looks incredible. But you had to get through, and you've touched on it just now with like COVID, destroying that business, and there was a real failure there, not by your fault, but just what did you discover by going through that? Because for everyone else, they'd say things look so successful and it's going so well. They don't know all those really, really tough years. I guess what are the key things that you discovered through going through that?
I think and it probably comes down to that mentality of like the self-belief, and that I really did find, although lots of it was really shit, and sort of like, as you said, I'm like a hopeful person, and there was not that much hope after a while. It was really like, oh my gosh, this is just going on forever. And because one of the main thing we did through 2 Pounds was events in the home. And remember that we couldn't even have one person in our house for nearly 2 years. So it just pretty much destroyed everything. So I found out that as much as I wasn't like hopeful and happy on every day, I am pretty resilient, because I used to think if it all goes to shit, which it's looking like it will, like I'll find something else. And I remember thinking, as long as I've got Bash and the girls and my family and my friends, you'll figure it out. Like there'll just be something else that – so I remember thinking that, and that's what I've learned about myself, that in like terrible times, even though sometimes I'm like, it was a terrible time, but it also wasn't – I think I'd be very different if it was like Bash got sick or something. Yeah. I don't think I'd have that mentality, or I think I'd fucking crawl into a hole and die basically. But I think with career, it's like it's not the end of the world. You can always reinvent yourself. You can always pivot. You can always – I feel like you're forever growing and changing as well as you get older and finding more, especially after becoming a mum. Like your priorities change, who you are. You are still who you are, but there's other things that develop and change that you'll always find something to do. Like that was my mentality. So I feel like I was resilient in that time. I also feel like I wasn't afraid of people. I wasn't afraid of the failure, like people thinking that I failed. I remember thinking back, why was I so upset that it was failing? And that was because I'm a massive feminist. I've got 3 daughters. I think I was given 3 daughters for a big reason. But I was actually most determined to show them that by growing 2 Pounds in my catering company, that they can do the same if they want to. So if they really want to create something of their own, they find a passion and they want to do something with it, you can, because your mum did it, so why can't you do it? But then when it was going to the shit, I was sort of like, oh my God, what am I meant to show? Like, what am I going to show them? I'm going to have nothing to show them. So the money was terrible. We had 2 lease spaces that I wasn't really getting any kind of benefits from or reduced rate or anything. So that was like pouring money out of us. So it was super stressful. But my biggest concern was like, what am I going to have to show my girls when it all goes down the drain?
But what did your dad show you?
Well, exactly right, that it'll all be okay. Yeah. Like it's actually not the end of the world.
I think that's the thing. You've actually showed them grit, resilience. I was going to ask you too, was there a grief that came around that dream, or was it just on to the next thing?
Yeah, it was. I think I eventually just was so burnt out and like so Bash really wanted to try and sell the business. So this was after 2 years of COVID, and there was still lots that could have been done with £2 but I was just done. Yeah. Like mentally, emotionally, I was so exhausted. And Bash was like, and we had a few interested buyers, but they were too worried that it was tied to my name, so they wanted my involvement. And I was like, I'm done. I can't. And I think that was kind of that like grief of just like, this has been 2 years of hell. Yeah,
Tainted it.
Yeah, it just tainted it fully. And not to mention that it wasn't the worst thing because catering is fucking hard work. It's just so physically exhausting, and like the labour involved. Anyone in the hospital will tell you. That's why I always, I have so much respect and love for hospo, like waitresses, waiters, anyone working in hospo. It's just hard work. Like not only is it physically exhausting, shit hours, but then you're also trying to always please the fucking customer, and it's just like exhausting. So it wasn't the worst thing that I kind of had to get out of it. I often think that now. I'm like, Bash and I still, whenever we turn up to like a beautiful event or a wedding or whatever, we're like, oh my God, I remember being on the other side. Like how much, because he was awesome at coming to big weddings and stuff when I catered for them. But it's just like, oh my God, imagine I was trying to do that with 3 kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you make sure you're then very kind to the
Always.
the catering staff? Okay.
People should be anyway.
Yeah, what should they? What's a nice compliment to get as a caterer? If someone says something that you're like, that
I think just being appreciated for the service. So many people ignore wait staff, and this is even in restaurants and bars, and they are rude as fuck to them. And it's like, why do you think that you're better than that person that's serving you?
I actually think that's a huge red flag for me.
Yeah, so do I.
Huge red flag if someone's not kind to the people that are providing a service.
Same.
It doesn't take much.
Thanks, Steph, for helping us today. Thanks, Steph.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for all that you're doing to make this podcast wonderful.
Yes. No, always be kind to anyone that's doing something good or nice for you. I don't know why people think any differently. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's a nice way to also think of, given that you're hopeful, you're optimistic. So, and Laura, I know you were wanting to talk about opportunity, right? That was something that we were mentioning. You spot an opportunity around these reels. Do you want to jump in with your question?
No, I've literally written,
Is it okay?
How do you spot an opportunity? Like, how do you know that that's the place you want to head? I remember, so 2020 was the first time I ever went on Instagram, and I remember...
No, you're like, pro at it. You just, it was.
No, but I'm like, what is this space? What's going on? I would have had, it was such an interesting time, like almost like an explosive time where you could kind of do, because everyone was watching at that point. So I'm wondering why and how you knew that was the place to go.
I think it's funny because opportunities, I love the word opportunity just for what it is. But probably when you first asked that question, I thought of 2 things, because I do get given and provided lots of wonderful opportunities now because I've built up, a following and that kind of thing. So there's probably a difference of like, how do you know what to say to that? But you're meaning more like, how do you spot an opportunity as in like, go for that. It's going to be something. I think, look, if I'm being really honest, you don't always know. I think at the time I was pretty flat with everything going on with £2. And that's where Bash is such a wonderful support and so great at seeing how like miserable I was that we kind of sat down and it was like, what can we do? And I was like, I wanted, because I had shared recipes on my catering page to begin with.
Yep.
And I bought a good camera. I literally could not afford it at all, but I went out to Harvey Norman, even though you weren't fucking allowed to drive there because of dumb COVID and the Ring of Steel, but went there anyway.
So sorry.
The Ring of Steel.
Dan Steel, sorry. I'm so sorry.
Totally.
That's actually given me like,
our family has had to meet. We're like, what do we do to reframe this messaging around
completely.
The Ring of Steel?
Absolutely.
What an awful
I thought you were going to say family name.
Absolutely.
The Ring of Steel. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was just such a weird, anyway.
What a
you get to Harvey Norman.
Yeah, I bought the camera and learnt how to use that. And so I had been a few weeks into that knowing, but we sat down and it was sort of like, Bash was like, what do you want to do kind of thing?
Yeah.
Because he knows that whenever he sits down with me and like maps out all the shit that's going on in my brain, it helps because then I kind of get some clarity after it. I'm like, yep, that's what I'm going to do. My plan is for the next month I'm going to try this. So we sat down and we just knew reels had just begun.
Yeah.
And look, to be honest, we didn't know what they were. We just knew that, I don't know if I can answer that as in like with a good answer because I feel like it was just a feeling of like, we should get on these. They look like they're going to be something that's going to take off.
Yeah.
it wasn't so much like, oh, if we don't get on now, we're not going to get on. I think it was just good timing, like timing of, because as I say to people before Reels came out, you actually didn't ever see anyone else's content. So you had to physically be following someone to see their content in your feed.
Yep.
Now you would be like, what, really? 5 years ago? And it's like, yes, before Reels came, you didn't have an explore feed where stuff gets
No, you're right.
fed
I'd
to
forgotten
you.
about that. Yeah.
It was just literally who you followed. So that was the massive shift. So it was really good timing. And I always say, obviously, if I had shit recipes, I wouldn't have grown like I had. So it's a combination of things. But I just think the timing with Reels, we knew something was happening.
Yep.
It was just a time to get on it. And then my first one went viral kind of a couple of weeks into doing it.
Wow.
So it was just a bit like then you saw what it could do.
And what problem did you feel like you were solving? What was it that people were coming for?
I think when I started filming it, like when I bought the camera, it was purely to lift my spirits. Like I was like, I need to do something here. I'm just like the whole catering thing and the lockdowns were just destroying me. So that was just like a hopeful thing of like get the camera, film the recipes. But then I put them out on my catering page just as a bit of fun. But then what I loved was that people were like, I cooked that with my family or I loved it. And I was a bit like, I really cook simply. Like I didn't think that people would find it that valuable. It was like kind of not a light bulb moment, but a bit of a moment of like, okay, this is actually going to help people. Like I kind of I knew that people were different in terms of their ability and their love for cooking, but I sort of thought people just had their rotation of weeknight meals and that's what they did and whatever. And then they got a lot of value and joy out of the stuff that I was sharing. So that was kind of like okay, people might be able to use this in their everyday kind of lives.
Yeah.
When you hear yourself talking through, I mean, there's so much intentionality and there's so much like responsiveness, but when you think through all that you've just outlined around from, you know, finishing your first degree, having a pivot, having to go through, form a business, deal with the pandemic, all of that, when you think through of your path, what have been like the key skills that you think you've drawn upon the most?
Cooking skills? I'm joking. No,
That's good. We'll put it down. Cooking. Okay.
Toasting.
That's
Good.
hard.
Yeah.
I think, well, I've touched on this a few times, but I think resilience, I do think back to like, you know, the tricky stages, and it could have been really easy for me to be like, I'm going to hang up the boots and have a little break. And, you know, Bash at the time had a pretty good salary. So it was like we could have relied on the one salary. That I'm pretty proud of that I was like, nah, I'm pretty damn determined to do something here. This is only sort of starting to come out now that I'm noticing it, but I think people skills as well is a huge one, just in a world of, I don't know, even the people that I'm meeting through like my Wholesome stuff at different events, different people in the food world and whatever, it can be is unauthentic even a word? Yeah, okay, good.
If enough people agree that it's a word, it becomes a word.
Yeah, totally. There are lots of people, unauthentic word is a polite way of basically dickheads out there that, you know, I go to these wonderful events and the Instagram and social media world can be so full of dickheads. And I think, you know, looking back on the last 5 years, I think there's a skill. I don't know if it's a skill so much as a personality trait, but of just like meeting people and not thinking I'm better than them because I'm not. Like just because I've got a big audience, it doesn't mean that I'm any better than a person. That's what I always say, like, because my eldest daughter's starting to catch on that I've got this really big following, and I've tried to not she's hearing it from other people, and I've sort of never said anything about it. And she's like, yeah, but you've got 1 million followers. I'm like, yeah, but what does that even mean? Like, and, you know, I don't break it down too much because she gets over me chatting to her. She's kind of an introvert and doesn't like big chat. So after 2 minutes, she's just gone. But I think it's kind of like, oh, fuck, I just lost my train of thought. This is what I mean about the ideas just dropping out of my head.
It happens. I'm going to say something to you while you think.
Sure.
So the first time I ever met you, this is such a funny story. We were at Tasha's place, our mutual friend. Tasha's been on the pod. It's a great episode.
Yes.
You should definitely listen to it.
Yes.
It was a Halloween thing, I think. And you were there with Tom. I'd never met you before. And you'd brought an artichoke dip.
Oh, my cheesy artichoke dip? Yeah.
You and I'm so oblivious. And I'm like, who made this? And you're like, oh, I did. And I'm like, this is amazing. You're like, oh, I had to do this thing with Philadelphia. I now realise you had a collaboration, like it was a big deal. And I said to you, and you won't remember this, but I said to you, I'm like, this is amazing. You really should do something with this. And your response to me was, but this is kind of what I do. I know that whatever you do, you'd be just as good at.
Yes.
And
you just made me remember what I was going to say.
And it's so funny because probably a year later, I was struggling with dinners. I'm like, I'm so overwhelmed. I was, teaching, and my friend sent me your Instagram. And she's like, follow her. She's great. And I was like, oh my God. I said to her with 1 million followers, you should do something after eating your artichoke dip. But I think that's, well, first of all, you're super charismatic. You're really engaging, but you are friendly. And you didn't make me feel like I was silly.
But that's what I didn't do, bitch.
Yeah, well, you could have.
Yeah.
You could
I'm
have.
taking that dip off you.
And I'm sure that and we've had a few encounters, where you're sort of trying to get something out of somebody, and the minute it starts, they become charismatic. You're like, oh, it's actually not necessarily as authentic as maybe it might appear. So I'm sure you get that, right?
Yeah, well, that's the world. Like, that's what I see a lot of at events. Like people that you're like, oh, I feel like I know them because I see them online, but then you meet them and you're like, oh, they were really unfriendly. Like, just not into that, not kind of, But that's, you just made me think of what I was going to say. That's what I try to say to my girls. I'm like, there are a shitload of people out there that are doing wonderful things in their work and are really good at what they do.
Yeah.
It's and not that I've said this to them yet, I will as they get older, but it's slightly different for me because, it's on a social media platform where I become recognisable for people, but it doesn't mean that I'm better. I think people work hard behind the scenes everywhere, and just because what they do or their work or whatever is not on social media, people don't know about it. But it's, I grapple with the social media thing because I think it's so interesting. Just because you've got a big following, people are suddenly look at you differently or treat you differently or think you're better than other people, and it's just... And, there's a shitload of people that act that way if they do have big followings, but I just wonder why. Like, it's like you're the same person as when you started, so why? I don't know.
I did write down here how do you go with that parasocial relationship?
It's interesting. I feel like that's where my people skills help, I think, because especially being down here, I mean, both my husband and I grew up in the city and have lots of friends in the city, and that's where your old mates are really lovely because you're like, I've known you forever, you know who I am, like down to my core. I've found it sometimes a little bit interesting here when you're meeting new people because that does come into your head of like, are you just wanting to talk to me because I have 1 million followers, or are you wanting to talk to me because you actually want to get to know me as a person? So it's just, but in the same sense that I'm like, that's okay. Like, I will eventually sort of sift out what I find genuine and authentic and who gets along with, similar values to me. That will just happen. But it is interesting because I find it amazing how humans respond. Like, it is normal, natural human behaviour to do that. Of
course, yeah.
But it's interesting.
The other, just on the back of that, how do you decide how much to share?
Yeah, that's hard as well.
As in food? You mean like when you're having food?
Well, all of it. Like how much do you share on those sorts of platforms? Because, I'm going to Ellen, Dan's wife.
Good on you, Ellen.
I think she went up to you and started speaking to you about maybe a child or something like that, and you were kind of like, oh. And then Ellen realised later she'd actually seen it on Instagram. She hadn't spoken to you.
I've done that.
And she's like, oh gosh, I thought we'd had a conversation, but actually I think I was watching her reel or watching.
Yes.
So it's one of those strange things, isn't it? Where's,
Yeah, totally, because you are opening yourself up to people and your audience.
Yeah.
So then you can't expect to be somewhat private. Like, yeah, exactly. And I've done that before to Danny that was on MasterChef when I first met her years ago.
Yes.
I was like, oh my God. I was like, I think I know you. You're really familiar with doing that. And she was like, oh, do you know me off? I was on MasterChef. And I was like, no. And then I was like, oh my God, that's absolutely it. What the fuck? Like, I just pretended, no, I think I've met you. And then I was like to Bash, oh my God, I'm such an idiot. But so I totally get that that happens. It's interesting. Look, I have kind of, because it's so hard as well with people like sharing about kids and all the stuff that's come out about that and kids' faces. So I'm like, oh, don't I? I'm quite an open person to an extent. Do you know what? It just comes down to actually my energy and laziness of the week. Like, but also people don't follow me to find out. I'm not a lifestyle influencer where people are following me for my fashion advice or what I do day to day or about my kids. So ultimately I know my audience is built on my recipes. So I won't share that much stuff about my personal life because I'm like, no one really wants. It's so funny whenever I put up a post about Bash, like happy birthday Bash, I lose like 2,000 followers like that.
Stop it.
They're like, that's not a recipe.
Yeah, totally. And so poor Bash, everyone's like, oh, Bash, you're the, going to be the killer of the, no. It's sort of like.
Can we make an account called Follow Bash and then we'll do that.
100%. Just send people that love Bash
that would be
way.
so funny.
Yeah, so it's like people don't actually, they're like, oh, get away. I don't want to hear about how you love your husband and how you're saying happy birthday. I just want fucking free recipes.
That's savage.
Yeah, people are savage on social media. I'm quite lucky I don't get much of that because I'm not a lifestyle and I don't open my world up that much. I got a funny one like 2 weeks ago of a woman was trying to share my profile to a friend but accidentally shared it to me and was like, follow this chick. She's got good recipes but fuck, she mentions her family. She talks about her family too much. So I wrote back being like, was this meant to come to me? I kind of love this stuff.
That's hilarious.
And she was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I did, what I meant was like, and was just like, and I was like, it's all good, don't worry about it. And I was like, should I just block her? And I was like, nah, she can keep getting the free recipes. But I was like, wow, people are cutthroat.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
I know, yeah.
So if I can bring all that together, I think listening to it, it's really fascinating around, because I'm just thinking of the people listening, what do they pay for? The thing that has really helped you. Like you've got this amazing skill set, which, I mean, besides cooking, right, and knife skills.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but there's also like your disposition, but you've got this set of skills as a creator. Yeah. As in, I don't mean content creator. I mean, before we started recording, you mentioned about one of your things that you love doing. If it's all right for me to mention around
for sure.
Like, you think conceptually about recipes. So you there's a creativeness you've got.
Definitely.
People skills is a really critical thing. And then what it sounds like for you, the thing that's really added to your success is resilient skill set. Now, there's a huge amount under that you've spoken about, like the ability to, resilience is so easy to say.
Yeah.
So I'd say like that's also been a skill that you've constantly you've had to come back to.
And you don't know you've got it until you test it, right? It's one of those things.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely right. But if you think about now, like all that you know, if you were writing book number 4, cookbook number 4, and it was going to have some sort of advice for young people reading it, what would be the piece of advice you'd include in that cookbook to say for you to be able to get the most out of your life ahead? What would be your core bits of advice to young people now?
I think exactly what your podcast is about, that it's actually not all about the score. School is just one part of your life. Like if you've got fond memories of school, I would say that's a wonderful thing because lots of people go through lots of shit through their school years, like, friendships, bullying, learning in different ways that makes them struggle, different disabilities. Like there's so much to school that, it really is not about it, especially now. I feel like we're so lucky that we're in a time where you can finish school thinking you're going to do one thing and then 5 years later be doing something totally different. And we touched on this yesterday, like our parents' generation of they would finish a degree, go into a job, and it was all about loyalty to the job, and they'd sit in that one job for 30, 40, 50 years, and that was like the medal that you wore among your neck or on your neck.
It's be this rhetoric too of being too late.
Yeah,
I remember this idea, if you've got to go to uni now because you'll be too late.
After 30, you're too old.
That's
you can't do anything
That's
after 30, and I think that's shifted so much.
Wow. Absolutely,
Yeah, I feel like that would be number one, that you don't, in my case, I didn't know what I wanted to do at 20. I didn't know what I wanted to do at 30. I'm nearly 40 and I'm like, I love what I do, but I know it's not the end. So I know I'll be doing different things and I love that thought of like what's to come, like the idea of what if and what could be. I think surround yourself with good people. I think that's what I keep coming back to approaching 40. I think when you're young, you can be so influenced by the people around you and trying to be someone that you're not and trying to be like others and trying to impress people. And I think if you can try, and which doesn't always happen when you leave school in early 20s because you are so young, but try and work out who you are as a person, like what you stand for, what your values are. Like I've done my values workshop every year just to know like what you really give a shit about, what like lights you up. And then surround yourself with people that bring out the best in you, because there's lots of people. I call them energy fucking drainers. But there's lots of energy drainers in the world.
Energy vampires.
Yeah, if you are that person that wants positivity and wants, to step out or do your own thing or find what you love, the energy drainers will get you eventually if you surround yourself with enough of them and you listen to what they say and, always their problems and all of that sort of stuff. I think find good people, find people that make you laugh, make sure you have lots of fun. That would kind of be my advice for young people.
It's interesting. I remember doing a workshop with probably year 12s at one point to talk about what they wanted to do beyond school or what they wanted to achieve. And a lot of people said money, money. And I think the thing is we talk about this arbitrary idea of money, but actually money is assigned to a particular value that we have, right?
Totally.
And so, for example, if you think about that colleague who said to you, stay, maybe the value that he has is stability and security. And that's what he values more than anything, right? And I think Dan and I both had this conversation yesterday when we listened to your voice notes and things. The thing that came up for you so much and something that's really important to me is freedom.
Yes.
And
that's one of my values.
Yeah. And we could hear it. We could hear it, like the fact that it's not about how much you earn. It's about, and the community that you have, it's about the ability to make the choice and to feel free in those choices.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes. And God, we could do a whole nother podcast.
We're doing a follow-up series with guests, so this is perfect.
Yeah. Well, I'll come on and talk about, freedom, but courage is another one of my values, and then respect. But freedom is huge for me, especially for females. I still think, females being mums, they put themselves second or third or fourth or fucking 10th all the time. And they think it's selfish to, step into their own thing and find what they love and do what they love. And I think freedom, it's like a huge umbrella for me, and then there's a million things under it. But the chance of freedom is and it doesn't always come easily because there's so many constraints that, money and time, lots of things. But I think freedom is such a big one for me, that you can kind of dream and want and be able to step out and do it. And I think we're very privileged and fortunate in this country, not with, there's lots of shit parents everywhere, but you've been given, which I was lucky enough to get, parents that were like dream big and put yourself out there and see what happens is all part of freedom. And I think if we can teach that to our kids as well, to just have the ability to dream, but then to also kind of put in the steps in place to follow that or reach for that. And if it doesn't work out, it's not the end of the world. Like you can always do something else. And I think we're in a day and age now where you kind of can do something else. There's lots of different, when you had nursing and teaching and lawyer and, real estate agent is like the options alongside a few more. But now it's like world is our oyster in a sense of what you can do.
But you can see it now. We couldn't see it before.
Yes.
We see it through our phones every day, what people are experiencing and doing. We didn't have that before.
Definitely. Yeah.
So it sounds like as well you choose an attitude of seeing things in abundance versus.
Yes, I've gone through a workshop where I've worked out rather than scarcity.
Yeah.
Yes, because there's people in my family and generations before there was absolutely, and for big reasons, scarcity outlook. But yes, there's enough work in the world for, like business competitiveness and all of that sort of stuff rather than looking like, oh my God, why did they choose them? It's like, no, it's great. Like there's work for everyone and it's a better way. It's such a better way to look at the world. Otherwise you just get angry and bitter and it's not fun.
If you were thinking now about how would you, in a short way, say what success is now then?
We have to preface that I think your voice note was 4 minutes when you...
I feel like we're also picking on Sarah about her voice notes.
I'm really going to try myself to I'm
going to just bombard you.
You've got a lot to say on it. You've got a lot to say.
No, but I think that
I do.
Everything that you've just said just now, how would you, in the shortest way possible, say what success is to you now?
I think success to me now is I said to you guys the other day, it's like time, like having time with my husband, time with my girls, but also just getting enjoyment. I think the biggest thing with success is that, people often relate it to money and power and fame and status, which are all these external factors which come back to an imprint that was built in them from whatever age that they think that that's the way, to freedom or like the way that they're going to be a success in life is to tick those boxes. But for me, it's just actually about like all the things in my life, my kids, my work, my marriage, just getting joy out of them, I think is my idea of success right now. Like working hard, which my husband and I work really, really hard, but enjoying what we do, because I feel like if you're working so hard and you don't enjoy what you do, that's really tough. Like it's going to have a burden on everyone. So I think in all the things that I choose to do that I just get some kind of enjoyment out of it, I think is my definition of success now, which I actually don't think will change much. You know, good relationships and having great people around you and, you know, still be silly, still have a laugh, still find stuff ridiculous. Like I get to do that with my nearly 9-year-old, but she's in a stage of like showing her bum and just doing stupid shit. And I'm like, I find it so fucking funny. Like,
Kids are funny.
they are funny. And like rather than like stop being silly, just laugh with them. Like it's kind of like you grow up and you just lose so much of that when you grow up.
We have this it's really silly. My daughter has found a packet of googly eyes and she's so good at just hiding them everywhere. And so my husband will go to work and he's got 2 googly eyes on his shoulder blades and we just go, just let him go. We find them everywhere and it's such a great joke.
Yes.
Is she aware that she's doing the
Oh, yeah,
joke, or is
yeah.
she
No,
just-
she knows.
she's
She
she'll
knows.
just leave.
She's super strategic. She'll like, see your mum, give you a cuddle, and I'm like,
And then
there's a
she's
googly
slapped
eye
on
on
your
me.
back.
We haven't
I
actually
just think
told
it's
you.
so good. Like,
Today you've got one.
and do you know what? If I was out and about and somebody said there's a googly eye on you, I would laugh my head
just
off.
makes
I'm
you
like,
laugh.
it's so good. It's so good. What
Completely.
innocent, gorgeous fun that is.
Definitely. Yeah. It's that stuff. I'm like, it's really easy to get like, you know, stressed and stuff with work and how much is going on. And it's like you just also got to find the time to laugh and be silly and do stupid stuff with your kids because they'll remember it as wonderful memories, but it also just loosens us up too.
100%.
And makes everything a bit lighter and more fun.
Agreed.
Which goes back to, it's like we circled around to where we started when you were talking about, that's what your dad did for you guys when you were growing up.
And I'll always have the fondest memories of that. Like him in his beautiful suit from work, but with a pink daisy hat on and a scarf and he's walking around just being an idiot. Like it was just fun and it was just always so comforting to go to bed to that. Like being so fortunate to have parents that were in a happy marriage, like not everyone gets that. So it's like if you can do that for your kids, just do it.
And look, I'm not somebody who leaves your content because of your husband. And I know that he does that. I know I've seen,
Yes,
I've
so
seen,
good, yes.
rolling on the floor, being silly with your
Totally,
kids.
yes, loves
and
a
I
wrestle.
And I can also see now why you platform that content.
Yeah, yes, totally. He's very good at that. At just being silly, getting on the ground with the girls, like even we've still got a nearly 2-year-old, but even with Lil, like, and it's so important. It's so good for their connection and so fun for the kids. And obviously, as I said before, I think it helps adults too. Just loosen up and relax
take it
the
all so
nervous system a
serious.
little bit, and have a bit of fun rather than it always being like, I've got to get that done or we need to do that, you know?
Yeah.
So success has moved away from being about grades and scores to like enjoyment, joy, being able to be silly, but also you having time with the right people.
Yes.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
for you.
And on the right things, it sounds like too.
Yes. Yeah. I've also realised over like the last couple of years, because I am not good at saying no to things and I'm getting way better. But opportunity, right? I love the idea of an opportunity and where it could lead. So I 3 years ago would say yes to everything. And then I realised I was just like, oh my God, I don't actually have the time in the week to do this. So I've been better at saying no. But I also now listen to my body, like when I've finished something, if I'm like alive, when like out from here, I will walk out and I'll be like, I've had the best morning and it'll light up my day. So it's like listen to that stuff in terms of what you say yes to more of rather than like saying yes to, a friend or something to do that. But then you're like, that was kind of hard, went back to Melbourne, did 4 hours there. Then I didn't like it and I'm feeling stressed now. Like it's just about like the idea of success for me is just finding things that actually like light me up, bring me joy, bring me around good people, that kind of thing is what I try to listen to more of now.
Totally.
Well, and there's things that you can be good at, but then drain you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Things that you can be good at that also energize
Completely.
you. And knowing that difference. And if you can do more that energize you, I mean, there's always going to be stuff you have to do that also drains you.
Totally. Admin. Oh.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's so funny. How many times do you have to say that to me, Dan? Dan's like, because Dan's the Energizer Bunny and we talked about it before, the dreamer, and I said handbrake, but I'll say the grounded one.
Yes.
I'm the grounded one.
The grass toucher.
Yes, that's right. Sure. But Dan will like bombard me with all these ideas and he'll go away, check in with your body.
Yes.
Let me know because I'm very much I don't like to disappoint.
Yes.
I don't like to
People pleaser in all the females.
of all the women, exactly right. And Dan's such a good, he's like, go home, like almost internalize it, see where it sits in there, and then come back to me.
Totally.
And he's very good like that.
When we were starting up, we had conversations about this. We're like, well, what is it that you need?
Yeah, I said very clearly, I was like, I actually
this is
just
what
need
I
to
need.
know where it lands for me. Give me a minute.
Yes.
Yeah. And
And
even-
you go away, have a night.
I do.
Yes.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember you gave me the phrase, you like, check in with my body.
Yeah, I just have to
All
check.
right, so that's important
have
to
to
do.
yeah,
and
I
then
have to, yeah.
you gave me some, which was,
Oh,
I
God.
was saying, no, remember.
Calm down.
Settle right down, mate. No, it's spitballing, right? So I said, because
Yes.
I'm similar to you, I get lots of ideas.
Yeah.
But I have to say to Loz, I'm just spitballing. Like, we're not
Yeah.
These aren't
sticking to any
cement
of
yet.
these.
I'm
Yeah.
just throwing them at you and see
Yes.
what happens.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But you have to be able to advocate for yourself like that though too. That
Completely.
takes time.
Well, there's a really
Yeah.
good guy in the coaching space called Michael Bungay Stanier, and he talks about when you're creating relationships, because at some point you have to work with people and
Yeah.
things go wrong.
Yeah.
So he talks about you have your best date conversation, like when a date's gone really, really well, what was it that you did? What did
Yes.
they do? And then when you have your worst date, what was it that they did? But what did
Yeah,
you
I
do?
love that.
So either way, you're like, so what do we need to make
Yes,
things better?
yeah.
So that's why we were trying to work out
Yeah.
if I overstep, what is it that I've done?
Yeah, and
what do I
knowing
need
it
to do to
before
then
it
help
happens
come
and then
back?
letting it fester and then it just,
Yeah.
yes, completely. It's so important to do that and to be aware of it.
I've got, before I come to our final thing, I've got two. Can I share two ideas?
Sure.
I'm just spitballing.
Sure.
Right? I'm just spitballing. So
They
it sounds like a toasty book. I'd love to see the best of toasties.
You do have a series though, don't you, of like the you have
the egg flips?
Yes.
Yes, do love the egg
Yes.
flips.
Toasty
Yeah.
book. But no, the more serious idea is you said a different word for failure. So I was going to say it's two words. but
Yes.
learning opportunity.
Definitely. Absolutely. Learning, growth, like it's such we really do need to reframe that word because I think it's got a lot of red crosses against it where people think, oh my God, I can't in case I fail.
I think failure feels like an ending.
Yeah.
I think that's the problem. It feels like an ending, but it's
Yeah.
really not.
And I think too, so Dr. Maya Angelou, she has this really brilliant, I'll muck up the quote, she talks about, so one day she wishes, she's passed away now, but she says, I wish we will be able to measure words, but words really matter because eventually when you say them, they get into the walls, they get into the carpet, they get into the curtains, and then eventually they get into you. So with our kids, we're really mindful of language or languaging. So instead of saying like you mucked up, it's like, well, so what's the learning we're going to get from this? What are we going to get from it? Because eventually when we're not there, they're going to use those words.
Absolutely.
And that's what it sounds like your dad's done really well.
Yeah.
There's all these things that have helped you just be super bloody resilient
Yeah.
to be able to achieve this.
And I think we don't realise, we do, but we don't realise how much of our parenting stuff does rub off on them. Like, you can talk directly to them and think that you're making an impression and whatever, but it's like the doing and the then watching that is doing more and will do more. Like there's just, I can't even think of them now, but there's things that both Bash and I do that grinds the other one's gears and it came from an imprint of them being a child. Or like when your child's sick, when they're like, I'm sick and I can't go to school. And Bash is like, well, if you're not going to school, you're in bed all day. And I'm like, hang on, why? Why does she have to go to bed all day? Like that's like a full punishment. She's not feeling well. Do we treat adults like that when you're feeling really terrible that you make them go to a place? And he's like, even though his mum is so not a psycho, she's like the best woman in the world. But that has definitely been an imprint that's come from when he was a child because our parents were like
you have to be productive.
Totally.
And if you're not productive, well,
then
therefore you
are
must
sleeping. Like, you can't watch TV.
Correct. Yeah.
You can't get fresh air. Like all of this stuff that I find so strange.
It's true,
I'm like,
though.
we need to cut that. Like that's just not on anymore. If our child is sick, they can have some nurturing and some caring. They can watch a bit of telly. They can go for a little walk outside. Like it's
Have a wholesome broth. Wholesome broth.
wholesome broth to warm the body. But I'm like, trust me, I have a zillion of them as well. I'm not saying I'm
we all
perfect,
do,
but it's like, yes, just kind of breaking. Those are all the things that we learned just by, osmosis as a kid, that it's like, yes, they are watching and learning and taking it all in all the time. So not that trust me, I am not perfect at all as a parent, but I'm just aware that they're always watching.
Yeah.
And that'll be follow-up episode, all the ways that Sarah's not perfect. And then all
There's a
the
million of
imprints
them.
of Bash. All right, there we go. We've got that sorted. So the final question we have is, what haven't we asked you? That knowing the listener, what haven't we asked you that we should have?
I was going to say, I feel like a question that pops to mind is what's next, but I also hate that question.
But like, so what's recently pleased you then?
Oh, I like ones
Sorry,
that are
Loz.
to do with that. Oh, what's recently pleased me? Okay. My God, what have I done this week? No, I'm kidding.
Great podcast.
What's recently pleased me? Oh, this is just like a tiny little thing, but Lil started dance recently, and she had not training, but her practice last night, and it just bloody lights her up. And it's really nice because she never wanted to do it because she's so scared of the big performance that's in July.
Yeah.
And I was always like to her, this was 2 years ago and last year, and she was flat out refused to do dance. And I'm like, but you love dancing. You're really good at it. Like you naturally, I can tell. She's like, no, I don't want to get up on stage in front. I'm like, I get that. Do you know what? Why don't we just sign you up and you don't have to do the big performance? Like you can just see if you actually like the classes of the dance. And I kind of got her around to doing that. And she started like midway through term 1, and now she's obsessed with it, loving it, and is so excited for the concert in July. So I'm like, that's just like a nice parenting moment of like, but also a question of like, how much do you push, but then not
it's
push?
so
like
hard.
it's so hard.
hard.
But in this case, it paid off because I'm like, I was like to Bash, he was like, I don't think she wants to. I'm like, I know she wants to. We just have to get her in that room. So yeah, is that kind of it?
Yeah, but took the high stakes away.
Yeah. And
So you
it's
did
the
it. You did it the
expectation.
right way. Yeah, you did it
Completely.
or a way that felt safe.
Yes.
Created safety around
Completely.
it.
Like, and gave her an option of which I'm trying to do a lot more of at the moment. Like you guys would know of Ben Crow, love Ben Crow. But he talks about like parenting, you know, take away the score stuff and take a bit like what you guys do. But like netball, Lil loves netball. Like she bounces out of bed on a Saturday morning and you know, just even the language around that, like I love to come watch you play.
Yeah.
And even though it is about like for young kids, it kind of is about the score. So you can't fully take that away, but making it also about the effort and being with her mates. And like I can tell netball lights you up so much because you're just bouncing off the walls. You get to play with your mates. You have a great time. You're a good little netballer and not always focusing on the score is like how she enjoys it more. And it's very normal. She's like, did we win? Did we win? I'm like, oh my God. But I was like that as a kid too with sport. Like it's very normal to be like that. It's just like what else can I think parents in our day as well, it was all about the sport.
Yeah, we can just reframe it a
how
little
you
bit
can
more.
be better. Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's,
I try and with my girls, so one plays netball, one plays basketball.
Yeah.
And when we're going to try and offset me being like, all right, so what, you know, like what's the game going to be like? And, you know, focus on the score. I'd start by saying, like, so if today goes really well, like what is it you're hoping for that you're all going to focus on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And normally they come up with one or two things. And the other week my eldest said, I want to slide on defense more and I'm just going to try and take a few more open shots.
Yeah.
And so at the end, I never asked. I learned from, we had a previous guest, TJ, really, really brilliant. CEO of Badminton Australia, like professional athlete. And he never asked his kids about like what you find about the game. But now they've started, my girls have now started saying based on what they thought the indicators of success were for them, they're like, oh, I did the sliding D.
Yes,
and I got 2 shots that like I knew they were open and I did it really.
Yeah.
And I go, oh, it sounds like it was a great, like, oh, that's great.
Yes.
I just loved watching you play.
Yeah, totally.
Very mindful of the time, Laura. So
No, I'm just like we could get another. We could,
And I said
but
to-
I know you had a hard
I
finish.
said to
that's all.
Steph as well that I'm normally the good one with the
You are
time.
usually pretty good. I was trying to elbow you onto the
Okay,
table.
I was like,
Get away from me.
Sarah Marlene Pound, we have.
Very wow. I mean,
we-
how could you forget a name like that, really?
Thank you so much for coming on and join us here in the lovely Cocoa Place.
I know. It's unbelievable. I love this place.
It's
so
such
good.
a good space.
spot. Thank you so much for joining us. We do have a bit of a closing tradition of trying to get a crisp high five. Now,
Oh, okay.
I'm just going to go backwards a little because it's a
you
dance.
can be in there because we might hit you. No, we definitely
your
don't.
face.
Yeah, I definitely. And I'm mindful of the. I'll do
there's
this.
arms everywhere.
All right.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, arms, all right.
So
Ready?
a crisp high five.
Crisp,
Yes.
Okay.
crisp high five. Do you watch the elbow?
Oh, I was
Oh,
just
no,
saying,
I'm throwing you into chaos now. Don't worry.
I don't
All right.
think about stuff
Okay,
too
all
much.
right. Anyway, just go.
Oh, that was good. That was good.
Bloody good.
Yeah, well
I'm
done.
like, my theory is don't think about it too much. If I
Yes.
think about it too much, then I'll fuck
You were
it
giving
up.
me
Yes.
that look. You're like, wind it up, Dan. Let's just go.
No, my Bash will also tell you she doesn't like to, he swears
Just do.
scissors, paper, rock that I can read his mind because I'm like, let's not think about it, let's just do it every time I win.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, let's just got to get into it.
Be in the moment.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Stop.
It's been lovely. And I feel like whatever it was, an hour and a half, just like
That's the best. How
disappeared.
good's that?
Yes.
Thank you
It's
so
the best
much for joining
conversation.
us.
Thank you
Been
for
an
having
absolute pleasure. Oh, good job, team.